Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our What's New in MWF webinar. My name is Tim Grimm. I'm Customer Success Manager for Struxoft Solutions, and I'm happy to share some of our new features with you today. For those of you who are new to us, MWF, or Metal Wood Framer, is our automated Revit framing software for walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses for both light gauge steel and wood. If you're unfamiliar with MWF, we encourage you to go online to struxoftsolutions.com to view our offerings. After the webinar, we'd also like you to reach out to us to schedule a one-on-one demonstration. One of our technicians will be happy to show you how MWF can be used to benefit projects. This is the first in a series of webinars to cover the new features in our latest release, version 2.36, build 7096. This release includes 24 new features. Today, I'll cover several. Subsequently, we'll schedule additional webinars to cover more of the new features, so stay tuned. Today, I'll cover locking panels, placing ladder joins, line-based blocking and backing, inserting anchor bolts, inserting hold downs at the top and bottom of panels, creating ATS or anchor tie-down system stud packs, and generating shop drawings that include bills of material for MEP and dimensioning of MEP elements. This version is also the first to support Revit 2020 and will be the last to support Revit 2017. Before we start, I'd like to mention a couple housekeeping items. Firstly, anyone who registered for the webinar will be sent a recording of the session. Secondly, you may ask questions through the webinar in the Questions tab of the GoToMeeting dashboard. While I'll personally not be taking any questions during this presentation, our technical and salespeople are standing by to answer your questions through the GoToMeeting dashboard. Now, let's get to the heart of the presentation. So as I mentioned, I'll start with locking panels, which is a new feature. I'm going to select this panel here, switch to our wall module, and under settings, I can select lock panel. I'll be prompted for a description, and I'll type panel has been fabricated, and click OK. Note that the wall shows up red in the floor plan. If I view it in 3D with a section box, you'll see it also shows up red in the 3D model. You or another user can then come in, select a member in the panel, go back to settings, and select unlock panel. We've also added a feature that allows you to track the lock status. So I'll click on this. Now currently the panel is unlocked, but if I expand this item, I can see if it was locked, when, by whom, the comment, and probably more important, who unlocked it. Because if you lock a panel, you probably did it for a reason. This way you can see who unlocked it, and you can go talk to them if need be. So that covers locking panels. That is a new feature. It applies to both wood and metal. Next, I'll place ladder joins. And I'm going to place a couple over in this area. Here I'll place a 2x4 ladder join, and here I'll place a 2x6 ladder join. To place the ladder, we first select two studs on either side of the other wall. This is a type of join, so it's going to be under joins. Place ladder. Here I'll give it a name. This is going to be my 2x4 ladder. For the family, I'll choose 2x4. I'll toggle on select intersecting wall. What that's going to do is it will truncate this wall back. We do have a couple options here. Finish will insert a layer of finished material in between the last stud and the ladder. Structural will not. I'm going to go with the structural option. For orientation, if I click on 90, you'll see that that's the type of ladder we might use to get from one level to another. So we want to set that to 0 so that our members are vertical. We do have some spacing options over here. You can explicitly specify what the spacing is between the members. I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to leave it set to the default, which is offsets. And I'm going to indicate that I want 6 members in my ladder. I'll click Add. That creates a saved configuration. And I'll click OK. Now I'm being prompted to select the intersecting wall. And MWF will place the ladder and truncate that wall back. I'll place one more over here. Again, I select the 2 vertical studs. Go to Joins, Place Ladder. This time it'll be a little bit easier. I'll pick the 2x4 ladder configuration and simply modify it. So this is going to be a 2x6 ladder. I want this to be the 2x6 family, and I'll change the number of members from 6 to 5. I'll then add that configuration. Click OK. It wants the intersecting wall. MWF places the ladder and truncates the wall back. Let's take a look at these in 3D. I'll create a section box. And this is the 2x6 ladder. The 2x4 ladder is here behind. If you want to delete a ladder after the fact, you can simply select a ladder member and under Joins, Delete Ladder. If I go back to the floor plan and select a member of this panel and regenerate it, you'll see that the wall stays truncated because there's still a join there at that intersection. So that is placing ladder joins. This is a new feature. It applies to wood. Next, we'll take a look at line-based blocking and backing. For this, I'm going to switch to a file that contains a light gauge steel panel. And I'm simply going to select one of the panel members. And I'm going to create a marker line. I'm going to use the regular spacing option, and I want to assign blocking. For the offset, my wall is 10 feet tall, so I'm going to go ahead and set this to half of that, which is 5. And then I only want 1, so I'm going to set this number to a big number, so I don't get a second line. Down here for assigning the blocking, you'll see that there are no blocking definitions currently. I'll click Manage to create one, and I want to name it after the member I'm using. So this is 600S 137-33 blocking. Horizontal stud's fine, line style is fine. The angle, I'm going to change this to 270. That's going to have the webbing at the top with the flanges pointed down. The vertical and lateral justifications I'll leave set to the defaults. The end member, I'm going to change this to the second option, which is stop at nearest intersected member. And then I'm going to set cutbacks. Here I want to click on the advanced option button, and I have C channels, so I'm concerned with these groupings here. On the hard side, I'm going to stop at this plane right here, which is plane number 4. So I'm going to choose 4. And then on the open end, I'm going to go back to this plane, which is 2. And I'll click OK. I do want to split the members at the vertical studs, and I'm going to stagger them by 1.5 inches. These settings look good to me. I'll click Add. That creates the saved configuration. I'll click OK. Now I can choose that blocking configuration and click OK. I get the marker line across the middle of the panel, and if I regenerate the panel, I get the blocking. Let me rotate to the front view, and I'll show you how these are being extended here. Let me switch to the wireframe display mode, and I'll scroll in a little bit, and that's what I specified. So that's blocking. Now I want to create backing. I want some backing 2 feet from the bottom of my panel. So I'm going to select this existing marker line since it's already been set up, and I'm going to copy it down 3 feet. Then I can grab the ends of the marker line and simply stretch them to the number of bays I want to cover. In my case, I'm going to indicate 3. I'll now go to the properties of that marker line. Here's the blocking. I'll click Manage. I'll choose the existing configuration. It's always easier to modify than to create new. And I'll change this from blocking to backing. For the member designation, this is backing, so I'll use that. For the angle, I'm going to use 0. For now, these are fine. I'm going to choose the third option, extend the closest member after the end of the line. My setbacks, I'm going to leave as they are, 4 and 2. With light gauge steel, I don't want to split at the members, and I don't want to stagger offset. I'll click Add. Make sure that I've selected that here, and click OK. Now I'll regenerate my panel. And that looks promising. It looks like I had a little mistake here where I had that line just too long. So I pulled it back just a little bit, and I can then regenerate the panel. Okay, that looks correct. Now, one thing I want to mention to you here is that the marker lines go to the center of the studs. And in this case, for the backing, we want to bring it to the front edge. So I'm going to select that marker line once again and go to Properties, Manage, make sure that I've selected backing here. And what I need to specify is a lateral offset. And I've written this down previously, so I know exactly what that needs to be for my situation, 2 3/8 inches. I'll go ahead and update the configuration and click OK. And again, regenerate. We should see that move forward. And I'll switch back to the consistent colors. You can see that that looks good. Now, one of the primary advantages of our marker line technology is if I select that line and decide that rather than 3 bays, I want 5 bays, I can simply stretch it over as appropriate and regenerate. So that is line-based blocking and backing. This is new for walls. It has been in our floor module for some time. And this applies to both wood and metal. Next, we'll take a look at inserting anchor bolts. It'll work with this wall here. And I'll view it in 3D with a section box. I'm simply going to select a member of the panel, and I'm going to go into the wall properties, which I'll edit. On the miscellaneous tab, near the bottom, we have anchors, and below it we have hold downs, which I'm going to cover next. So those are both available here. And one important thing to consider and understand is there is a template button here. So now anchors and hold downs both can be saved to templates to be applied to one or many panels. I'm going to click Edit for the anchors. Here I'll check on Enable Anchors. For the minimum clearance, I'm going to want mine centered between my studs. So again, I know what that value is. I'm going to input it 7¼ inches. I don't have any hole series defined, so I'll go ahead and manage that. I could use a void hole, that would work, or I can use a round hole. For the name, I'm going to call it 1 inch round hole. I'll add that, and then I'll set its diameter to 1 inch. Now I can choose that hole that I just created. Here I'm going to use the generic anchor bolt, and it's a 1 inch anchor bolt, so that will work perfectly for my needs. I'll click OK. And when the panel is regenerated, I now have the anchor bolts at the bottom of the panel. If I delete one of these anchor bolts, you'll see I also have the holes. Now, let's say I need to make some adjustments. Maybe I've got some pipes coming up through this panel. So what I'll do is I'll take one of these anchor bolts and delete it, and I'll grab another one and I'll move it 2 inches to the left, and I'll move this one 2 inches to the right. And before I do what I'm going to do next, let me just go back into the wall properties. And I want to point out to you that for the anchors, I specified at member interval. So what that means is after every member at 7¼ inches, place an anchor bolt. Another option on here is offsets, where you can specify specific offsets. Notice that that currently is blank. Those of you who have used MWF understand that if I regenerate this panel, those changes that I just made to the anchor bolts will be lost in the regeneration. We have added a new feature, which is going to be under Edits, and it's Edits Wand for anchors and hold downs. I'm going to select that. I'm being prompted to select the member of one or more panels, and then I'll press the Escape button. And I get a message that says that 8 anchors and 0 hold downs were saved successfully. I'll click OK. Go back into the wall properties. You can see that MWF changed the placement pattern to add offsets and automatically generated what those offsets are. So if I do regenerate this panel, I don't have to be worried about losing the anchor bolts locations. They've been written back to the wall properties. So that's inserting anchor bolts. There was a reworking of the user interface on this one. The Edit Wand feature is new. You can now save your anchor bolts as part of templates, and anchor bolts apply to wood and metal. Next, we have inserting hold downs at the top and bottom of panels. And this is going to be quite a lot like what we just saw. I'm going to select the panel member and once again go into its properties. And this time below anchors, I'm interested in hold downs. I'll click Edit. I'll enable hold downs, I'm going to insert the bottom hold downs on each side of the stud, both sides. For the whole series, I'll use the 1-inch hole that I created earlier. I'm going to accept the default family and type, and I'm going to insert the bottom anchors. What's new in this release is the top hold downs. We can now go ahead and place them as well. I'm going to insert those. I'll use the same whole series, and I'll check on insert top anchors. I'll click OK. And when the panel regenerates, I should have hold downs at the bottom and the top of the panel. Now, if you want to completely remove either anchor bolts or hold downs from a panel, we simply select a member of the panel. Once again, go back into the properties. And here, I'm simply going to uncheck enable hold downs. And when the panel regenerates, you'll see that they've been removed. I'll undo that with Control Z. So that covers inserting hold downs at the top and bottom of panels. Again, there was a reworking of user interface on this feature. The ability to add hold downs to the top of panels is new. The Edit Wand feature that I showed you earlier also works with hold downs. That is new. And you can now save your hold downs as part of templates. Hold downs can apply to both wood and metal. Next, we'll take a look at creating ATS, or Anchor Tie-Down System, stud packs. And first, I want to point out a couple things to you. Cut a section through the building here. For this tool to work as designed, the panel above and below need to be the same width. They don't have to be the same wall type, they just have to be the same width. And they have to also be on the same plane, which you can see these two are. Also, you're going to want your bays to line up between the panels. And the way that we achieve that is with a benchmark that we associated both panels to. Now, I'm going to go ahead and place a model line, and I'm going to offset it at a distance that's going to place it in the middle of this bay. And I'm simply going to grab the end of the model line and drag it down into the panel below. I'm now going to go into Marker Manager. Under Framing Verticals, we now have an ATS stud pack. Now, we encourage you not to edit the delivered marker types. It's much better and safer to duplicate them and then modify them. That way you can always go back to what was delivered. So I'm going to go ahead and select copy. I'll give it a name. I would probably put my company's name in the beginning, but for demonstration purposes, I'll just say my ATS stud pack. That's been added. I'll now modify it. Let me stretch this dialog box out a little bit. So 2x6s, those are good. I do want 2 on either side for my verticals. This is the bottom, this is the top. For the horizontal, I'm going to change that to a 4x4. You can see the height that's being set here. And then I need to set the spacing. And again, I know that for my condition, this is going to be 8.5 inches. I'll click OK, and I can close this dialog box. Now I'll go to Markers, create marker lines. This time I'm going to convert an existing model line and assign it a stud pack. And it's the ATS stud pack that I just configured. I'll click OK, select the model line, press Escape. Now I'll regenerate each of these panels. And you can see the ATS tie down has been inserted. There it is on the top panel, and it extends down through the bottom panel. If I wanted to get rid of it, I would just delete the model line and regenerate the panels. So that covers creating ATS, or anchor tie down system, stud packs. This is a new feature, and it applies to wood. Next, we'll take a look at generating shop drawings that include bills of material for MEP and dimensioning of MEP elements. And for this, I'm going to open up my project browser. Well, that is not working like I expected. So let me go to View, and I'll simply turn on my project browser here. And what I'm going to show you is down in the sheets, there's only a single sheet. It's the cover sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and create shop drawings for this panel. You can see that I have a few pipes here that are penetrating it. I also have an electrical receptacle here. First, let me go into the Drawings Manager. And I'm going to find the view option called MEP Elevation that we created, and I'll look at the settings. And the main thing that is new here is MEP Dimension. So if that's checked on and you have MEP objects in your view, they will be dimensioned. There's also a Labels tab, MEP Text. So if you enable that, then MEP objects that are in your view are going to be annotated with their label. I'll toggle on View Settings. Here's where you select what you want displayed, and we simply have pipes enabled, and up above we also have electrical receptacles enabled as well. So those are the main settings that you would change. I'll now select a member of the panel. I do want the 11 by 17 here. I'll click OK. And you can see I have two new sheets down here. I'll double click on the framing shop first. This is something like you're used to seeing. This is the framing. Although you can see we did display the pipes and the electrical receptacle there. If I go to the MEP shop drawing, you can see that we've dimensioned those MEP elements, and they're also labeled E1, P1, P2, for example. And we added schedules. So this is the electrical fixture schedule, the description, the label, how many there are in that panel. And up here for the pipes, we have their descriptions, their labels, and also their lengths. So that is generated shop drawings that include bills of material for MEP and dimensioning of MEP elements. This is new, and it applies to both wood and metal. That's all the technical material for today. Again, we covered locking panels, placing ladder joins, line-based blocking and backing, inserting anchor bolts, inserting hold downs at the top and bottom of panels, creating ATS or anchor tie-down system stud packs, generating shop drawings that include bills of material for MEP and dimensioning of MEP elements. As I mentioned previously, more webinars will be scheduled at later dates to cover additional features in our latest release. Thank you to everyone who registered for and/or attended the webinar. Any questions that went unanswered through the GoToMeeting dashboard will be answered offline as soon as possible. Also, as I previously mentioned, the recording will be sent to registrants shortly after the session has ended. As always, please feel free to share the recording with colleagues. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us via email. Our general email address is info@structsoft.solutions.com. Also, our account manager's email address will be included in the email that will be sent to registrants. Thank you for your time today and for allowing us the opportunity to serve you. This concludes our session for today.